Seems like a long time since I've done a tri-tip. What has it been, like a week, 2 weeks? You know I love tri-tip, and today I'm gonna be smoking a tri-tip with a ginger garlic marinade out on the Weber Kettle. Yeah, it's time for another tri-tip, and here I've got about a 3-pound tri-tip, and we're gonna have to do something to this first because I bought this one untrimmed. What does untrimmed mean? I'll show you. It's got a pretty big fat cap on it, and I need to get rid of that so this marinade can get into the meat on all sides. So I've just got my sharp knife here, and I'm gonna start working along in sections. I'm not trying to take this all off at once. You can see you have this membrane here on the back too that you need to get under really to get at the fat a lot of the time. You can see if we work at it, you can get it to pull away a little bit from the meat without losing too much of that wonderful tri-tip meat. We're not going to get every single little bit of it off, but we're going to try and get the majority. You can see here with part of it removed just how thick it is. This is at least 3/8 of an inch in many places. But now I might be able to get my knife right under the majority of this fat cap and bring it up in a large piece without taking too much meat off. There we go. See, we got a little bit of meat on it. That's not that bad actually. Got to work our way in the center here. Like I said, we're not going to get it all. Just want to give enough places for the marinade to get into the meat here. And also if you feel any of that fat that's just thick, it's hard, that's not going to be good fat to eat. You can see we've got a pretty good piece of fat right here we want to try and get off. A little bit awkward holding this for the camera so you can see, but we'll get it. A lot of times if you get a tri-tip on special, you know, you're paying $2.99 a pound. A lot of times it'll come untrimmed because, well, no one did the trimming for you. And so part of that weight is fat. So you may not be getting as great a deal as you think, but it's worth it if you trim up a tri-tip. When you're taking this membrane off, you will lose a little bit of the meat sometimes. You can leave it on. I just prefer to try and take it off. It's not like the membrane on ribs, which is super tough when you're biting into it at the end. It's a little more delicate, I find, than that membrane. Good. You can see there's just a tiny bit of the membrane that's under the fat cap right here. I'm not going to worry about that. That looks good to me. Let's get the marinade going. The marinade's a very simple one. We're starting with 4 tablespoons of minced garlic, 3 tablespoons of crushed ginger, a teaspoon each of salt and pepper, 1/3 of a cup of red wine vinegar, and 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Just going to mix this together with a whisk. Just want to get it combined. All right, let's get it on our tri-tip. We're just going to pour the marinade on our tri-tip, rub it all over. Make sure we get everywhere covered here. That's all there is to it. Now this is going to go in the refrigerator for about 6 hours. And once it's had that time to accept this marinade, we're going to take it out to the Weber Kettle, and we're going to use my 110 sear method to smoke it with some cherry wood. So I'll see you a little bit later. All right, our tri-tip has had about 6 hours to marinate in the refrigerator. And now what I want to do before we get it out on the kettle is I want to scrape off some of this excess garlic, and I'm also going to apply a rub to it. All we're going to do is take this, just scrape off the excess. There's going to be still some garlic pieces that stay on there, but just want to get the excess. This garlic has done its job already. And that's just about all we need to do. Just like that. This is ready for some rub. All right, I've got the tri-tip on an old baking sheet here, and I'm just going to start applying the rub. This is a Flaps 20 Thriller rub. I really like this. It has a very southwestern sort of flavor in there. I think it's going to be a nice little mix and contrast with this ginger garlic marinade we've done. Give it a good coating. I'm not going to go super heavy. Just want to give all the surfaces a little bit of this rub. That's it, just a nice light coating of that rub on here to go with this ginger garlic marinade. Kettle's up to temp. Let's get it out there and start smoking. All right, it's probably a little hard to see, but our kettle temp is at 282. That's high. I want to keep it around 250, but I'll adjust these vents once the tri-tip is on there. So let's get it on and start smoking. All right, I want to give my cooking grate a last minute brush down here. Now I've got the kettle set up with the vortex about half full with the wide side facing up. I'll be using that to sear the tri-tip after we get to 110 degrees internal. Then we're going to be taking it to 135 degrees. So let's go ahead and get our tri-tip on. And go ahead and get my temperature probe in here. And our internal meat temperature probe showing 43 degrees, which is just about perfect. It's been sitting out of the refrigerator for about 10 minutes. So let's get some wood on here. I'm going to be adding a piece of cherry wood here. Nice big piece. All right, our cherry is caught. Let's get the lid on. So I'm going to adjust my bottom vent so it's at the 1/3 open mark. And my top vent I'm going to take down to about a half. And I'll keep an eye on those vents, see if we need to adjust them anymore. As I mentioned, we'll be taking this to 110 degrees internal, then we'll be searing it, and then we'll be putting it back in direct and taking it ultimately to 135 degrees. So see you when we get close to 110. All right, we have hit 110 degrees internal. Time to sear. I know it's hard to see in this light, but that's looking really good. Flip our little wing down here. We'll temporarily take out my internal temperature probe. Just lay it right there. Let's sear this. It's got a really nice color on it. Man, is there a great smell from that. So we're just searing it for a couple minutes on each side. Now let's give it a turn. That tri-tip is looking really good. Smelling good too. All right, let's move this back in direct, get our temperature probe back in. All right, we're gonna try and get it close to the same place as we can. If you can see that in this light, we're showing an internal temperature of 116, which is perfect. We just seared it, went from 110 to 116. So we have about 19 degrees to go to get it to 135. Let's get this lid back on, let it finish up. All right, we have just hit 135 internal. Let's take a look. Just want to do a spot check here with the instant read. Oh yeah, we're 135, close to the end there, so that's going to be a little higher. We are good. All right, and let's get our temperature probe out. Get our tri-tip inside. This is going to rest in foil for about 20 minutes. All right, here's our smoked ginger garlic tri-tip. It's been resting for a little over 20 minutes now, wrapped in foil. And I think it's time to cut into this. Let's see, we've got our grain running right here. Tri-tip, usually you can see the grain on the surface fairly easily, even after cooking, but it does twist. Like here it's going like this, and it's going to twist like this over here, and it's going to go more like this here. So we're going to cut straight across right here at a little bit of an angle. Let's see how we did. Oh, very nice. Very nice. Very juicy, as you can see right there. Nice medium rare interior. Let's cut a couple slices. I'll try and get these as thin as possible. Those look nice. Whenever there's tri-tip, I love saying, it's time to taste. I never get tired of grilling, smoking, cooking, or eating tri-tip. It's just my favorite cut of meat to prepare. You follow simple methods and you can get virtually identical results every single time. So let's see how this combination of flavors we put on this worked. Oh, wow. Now tri-tips, I usually do not marinate them. I will usually rub them and smoke them. But that ginger garlic marinade penetrated deeply. There's a very nice flavor in there from that ginger and garlic. Let's go for a second piece. You know, I was right. That Flaps 20 Thriller Rub was a nice complementary contrast, if that's even a term. Somehow that little bit more of a southwestern flavor with the ginger and garlic worked. And on the outside, you get just a nice hit of it. They just work really well together. Oh man. Now, I usually smoke tri-tip with hickory. That's my favorite wood to use for tri-tip. But I gotta say, cherry is nice to use every once in a while. A little bit more of a mellow flavor, not quite as much of a punch to it when you bite in, but it works really well, especially with this combination, I think, of ginger and garlic. And doing this sort of two-step seasoning process on this, a marinade and wiping off the excess, and then coating it with a rub, really does give you really just an over-the-top amount of flavor, which is perfect. The different flavors aren't fighting each other. They're working together in layers, and it is just terrific on this piece of meat. Now, cooking time on this was just over an hour with the kettle right around 250 degrees the whole time. That's another one of the things I really love about tri-tip, is the amount of time it takes to prepare. Usually no more than an hour or two when you're doing about 250. You can do it lower and slower or hot and fast. I find that 250 sort of range in the middle there gives you just the right amount of heat and time to develop whatever flavor you've put on it and allows that to get into the meat along with the smoke. I've said many times that tri-tip is my favorite cut of beef to prepare. If you can get your hands on one, I'm pretty sure you're going to enjoy it almost as much as I do.